Hey everyone, welcome to the Lake Michigan Angler Podcast. I'm Rob, and this is Michael.
Welcome back. This is season 3,
Yep.
right? It's our third year already. Wow, kind of time flies. We're back again here. We're starting a little earlier than the previous 2 seasons. I think the previous 2 started in like late December or something like that. But we wanted to start things up a little sooner than before. This year, with the hopes of trying to get some of these podcasts out while it's relevant to the kind of fishing that's going on for the season. So like right now, today's episode, we're going to do a lot of the recap for the year and all of that. But we've got some great episodes. I've already shot and lined up and people coming in that as we release them in the coming weeks and all that will be pretty relevant to fishing in these winter months and going into the ice season and all of that. So that's one big goal for this season. But man, Rob, just let's start with just recapping as we normally do for the podcast for the first episode of every season here. Kind of our year in review for the fishing for this year, and we'll start with like your personal experience for before we get into more broadly like what we saw from the shop perspective.
Yeah, well, I feel like every year when we, for the last 3 years doing this episode, we say the same thing, like, wow, what a great year. But to be honest with you, this year was amazing, and it's different than the last 2 years. The previous 2 years were really good, like awesome, but they're a little different than this year. The previous 2 years, we were seeing an increase in kings, but we were still predominantly catching cohos.
Yeah.
And this year, we still had a lot of cohos, but we had a lot of kings, and they were here way earlier than what we've seen the last few years. So we were catching kings. If you tried to catch kings at the beginning of May, you could catch kings.
Yeah.
Whereas the last 2 years, that wasn't really the case. There's a straggler here and there. But really, like in 2022, we didn't really start seeing any good numbers of kings until it had to be the middle of June.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair to say.
And this year, we were catching our stragglers beginning of May, catching 1-2 a trip if we were trying. But by Memorial Day, we were catching 6-7 a trip if we were, looking for them. And it was pretty cool. Like we weren't really doing the multi-species spread anymore. We were going all out for kings.
Yeah.
And it was pretty fast fishing. We would. Like most of my trips are before work in the morning, and I was never late. And most trips we had our limit, and the majority of the fish were kings.
Yeah,
especially after we stopped fishing for cohos. So it was an amazing year.
Yeah, I agree with you on in that point, which was it was really cool to see kings that early. And especially for me in the kayak. That was the first year that I got spring kings, and I had 4 total. Probably went like 4 for something out of it that I knew another couple were kings and not coho, just based off of like the hit and the fight until they popped off. But I got 4 in the kayak, and they were in like that 8 to 10 pound range, which are like perfect eaters in the spring. I mean, excellent eating. I was like, I was super excited because it's. One, like you said, we don't normally get them as early like that. And, I was fishing in like 40 feet of water, 50 feet of water, and you're popping kings. Like, dude, that's so cool. To get them and you're still getting a mix of cohos, I was super excited. And that was the first time for me, getting into that many kings that early into the season. So they were around, man. They were around.
The cool thing about those early season kings are that they're usually not real picky. Like they're usually like you don't have to have the perfect setup. You don't have to overthink it. Just get a blue dolphin down there, and if a king's around, it's going to eat it.
I'll tell you what. The spoon that did the damage for me with those kings specifically was the Dreamweaver Super Slim. You know what it is?
The A-bomb.
The A-bomb, half A-bomb.
Yep.
It was a half A-bomb. For whatever reason, I was running I run a 3-color lead core, in the spring, which also doubles as like my SWR off my rigger off the kayak. And that's what I was doing. I was running the 3 colors out, and I was putting it down 25 down off the rigger. So you figure I'm fishing. I was in like 50 feet of water, and that thing's down. Let me see, towards the bottom, 35, 40, somewhere in that range. Mm-hmm. And it was consistent with that thing. They wanted that profile or whatever, because I would put I'd put some other spoons out there, not as much action. The only other spoon that did well at that time was the Moonshine Wonder Bread.
Yeah.
And that so between those two, like in that time period, for whatever reason, so not next spring, those are going to be at the front of the box, ready to go out there.
For me, it started out like when I was doing solo trips in the boat. I'd have one rigger just stretched way, way back. It was either the UV Blue Dolphin from Stinger or just a regular flounder pounder moonshine, and it was just one or the two, just way, way back behind a downrigger ball. And I would just have that one spoon out and then a couple dipsies with coho rigs, and that seemed to always perform. But then once we hit Memorial Day, then really happened to see the flashes and flies on the wire dipsies. We started putting the wire dipsies out where earlier on I wasn't running them. But when we had more people on the boat, we'd put them out and they're just a white glow front, silverback pro troll with a green fly. It started off using the green Howie fly. That was really good. I think the Memorial Day weekend, that was taking like 4 kings a trip.
Yeah.
So
it was pretty nutty, yeah. Because I remember you would come into the shop and you guys, we had like 7, 8 kings today. I'm like, Jesus Christ, already? I'm like, wow, all right. Well, they're out there, and that was really cool. And after last year, when we had the amazing anomaly of a year with Coho,
yeah,
I was looking forward to this year to see what was going to happen. And well, I think we all know now what happened. We kind of got back to the regular Coho, and it sounds kind of bad. I mean, we're very lucky, and I hate that it sounds.
2022 really spoiled us for cohos.
Yeah.
There was a lot. They stuck around and they were big, and then late in the season, the ones we were catching were ridiculous.
Donkeys.
Yeah,
just it made no sense. 10-pound minimums. It was pretty consistent.
Yeah,
and then this year we went back to our normal. And again, when you say it like this, it sounds like so bad, but it wasn't. It was still really good coho fishing.
Yeah,
it was just more of like it just kind of in my opinion. It just really kind of pointed out that last year was just a unique, special year that we'll always remember. That was just something about that year class.
You know what? Next year we could have big ones again. It's hard to predict.
True.
It's just a matter of the food that the baby ones get on when they're young. When they're put in the lake, if they find the baby alewives, they're going to grow fast. But if they don't, and they just eat the
bugs and
whatever, the microscopic stuff, the shrimp, then they're not going to grow as fast. And it seems like this year class of fish just stayed on that shrimp longer before they started eating alewives. And
not to give away. Well, towards the end of the podcast, we'll kind of touch on some of the things we have lined up for the future episodes. But after going to see some of these coho that were pulled, I'll say that for now. They even the ones this fall that were being pulled for hatchery purposes were pretty, stable side. I didn't see 20 giant ones. They were all. I mean, you see ones that they looked like they were for the springtime. They were just dark, but they looked like they were the same 18 inches or 20 inches or whatever. So, yeah, just kind of one of those things. I think for sure this was the year of the king. The Kings made their comeback. The interesting thing, I think, from not only us fishing personally, not only from us being here at the shop and seeing people, getting the reports and seeing what they're catching as well. And we'll talk about the tournament side of it because we pulled a lot of data from that. We had excellent numbers of kings, and we also saw that we had this numbers kind of versus size thing going on where we have good numbers, but the size of them on the average was in that 14 to 16 pound range in the most part here. And it's been interesting to talk about this with other folks, and if nothing more, it gets the conversation going, which is, do you want numbers of kings, or do you prefer to have more opportunities to catch a bigger fish? And I'd ask you that.
Oh, well, I kind of like it both ways. Like, I'm not complaining.
Because I know from a shop perspective, like, we want more because it's more people to catch, and then, right? But, like, on a person.
Yeah, I think at the stage that the fishery is in with the customer base, where we see with the anglers, right now, it's perfect because we have so many new anglers.
Yeah.
that are just getting in, and they're learning how to rig things. They're learning how to troll. And when you have this many kings around, they're definitely easier to catch. And so overall, for all these newbies, it's just a better experience. You're out there catching fish, whereas not that long ago we didn't have this many kings, and when you did catch one, it was usually pretty big. Like you didn't catch them under 20 pounds too often, but you didn't catch a king every trip. It was like once if you fish 3 days a week, you might get one day where you got into a couple kings,
Right.
And then that was it. And not every boat out there was catching kings either. So it's tough. It's nice when you're getting 25 to 30 pounders. That's
Right.
awesome.
Yeah.
But man, there's a lot of downtime in between those bites. This is a lot more exciting, to be honest with you, because you're getting doubles, you're getting triples, sometimes quads.
Yeah. And it's chaos.
Hey, yeah, it's total
Oh, my
chaos in the
God.
boat. Everybody's getting tangled with each other, tripping over each other. You don't get that when there's just a couple big ones around.
Yeah, no.
So I kind of like it this way. It's just more fun. It really is.
Yeah, I agree. I would prefer just have the consistency, maybe because I've caught my big ones and you've caught quite a few big ones that, I'm cool. Not necessarily chasing a giant again, if it happens, it happens, but being able to go out there, and especially as a creator, like I'm trying to create content, and you're right, like prior to last year, trying to chase down a king, oh my God, I'd have to go out a lot. In a week, I'd have to go out multiple times in a week, and that's if the weather allowed in the kayak, of course, just to try and nail one down, and it's a lot of effort. So when they are more abundant, it makes it a little bit easier in that regard to, get them.
Yeah, and there still are some big fish out there.
Oh, yeah.
We had days with fish over 20, especially earlier in the season. Our biggest was 26 for the year in the boat. That day we had two or three others, I think at least two others that were over 20, a bunch in the upper teens. That was a phenomenal day out in the boat. There were still 30s caught. We didn't see quite as many 30s as 2-3 years ago, but there are still big fish out there. You still have a legitimate chance of catching a monster.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's always possible. So it was really, really great. And then as we progressed from that spring period where everyone was like, man, we got kings. Like, this is a blast. It only got better, and it kept good, with the diversity of fish.
Yeah, we kept thinking, like, all right, how much longer is this going to last?
Yeah.
You get, like, one slow day, and you're like, okay, well, it's finally done. It couldn't last forever. But then the next day, it's right back where it was, and you're catching your limit again.
Yeah, I actually remember when they showed up early, and you're like, man, I don't know. They're here this early. They might not be here, and they actually stood around. Like
They got better.
Yeah.
It kept good. More and more kept showing up.
Just when you think you've got the lake kind of dialed in and the flow of these fish, they can just switch it up on you and say, no, you know what, we're either gonna be here or we're not gonna be here. But thankfully, they stick around, and that kept going into summertime. Let's fast forward to around Salmonorama, July. What an amazing month we had in July from the weather perspective. It was, there were damn near almost every day was fishable that month.
Yeah, you know what? The whole first 2/3 of the season, the weather was amazing.
Yeah.
August, things started getting rougher.
We'll get to that. Let's stay in July.
Yeah, but like it was the best weather I can remember in a long time. From April, we had an amazing April. April usually is tough weather to get out there. I mean, April's typically cold. It can be windy. It's a little tougher to get out in April. This past April was really nice.
Yeah.
And then, May and June, just July, they were all nice. There weren't that many days that you couldn't get out there.
Yeah, it was really nice. July comes, Salmonorama comes. I have to say, that was a unique experience. That was my first time participating in Salmonorama. Shout out to Dave Johnson. Invited me on the boat to fish with him for the week, and so we did that from his boat. And beautiful weather all week. We were out there, everyone's grinding it out. It gives you an excuse to just go fish, even if,
Tell you what, people fish salmon ram really hard this
Oh
year.
my God. Well, because
Just
the weather
like
allowed for it.
Burning themselves out.
Yeah.
Going fishing 15 hours a day.
Yes. Yes. I've noticed that. And because here's the thing, not to get too far ahead, but once Salmonorama was over, I distinctly remember here at the shop, me and you were like, it's a little quiet. We knew people were burnt out.
Yeah.
Like that following week afterwards, it was really quiet. Like we knew, like, folks had fished their butts off, and they were taking a week off, and all that. So we noticed those kinds of trends. But what I will say is that weather was so beautiful, and I just think I will never forget the final day, that final Saturday. Right, we launch out of North Point. We shoot all the way up to damn near Racine, and the idea was we'll start up there and we'll just straight south rip, one shot, because I had to be back in here early. So that was the plan. So we shoot out, no problem. We're on the water, in the dark. We get out there, cool. Once we get to just south of Racine Harbor, but we're up that way. We start set lines. We start turning south to come right down in about 80 feet of water. So soon as we start turning set lines and the light, the ambient light from the sun is, over the horizon, you can actually start to see now. You're not in the complete darkness. I have never seen an armada of boats, easily 100, and maybe then was even being conservative. I mean, we didn't even know where they came from. It was an armada, and they were all in the 80 to 100 foot line. It was incredible to see. And I mentioned that just to say that, like, how impressive what the fishing was, the weather was, the turnout was. It was combat fishing that day. And I remember, I know I came back in, I told you, like, I don't think you fished that day, did you?
I don't remember.
Yeah. But I know I came in and I was like, Rob, I've never seen it like this. It was insane, and it reminded me of being in some other combat fishing, regions and stuff like that. It was really interesting, cool, but also like, all right, this is too much for me. So weaving in and out of boats, but we still had an amazing day. And that day, the Steelhead showed up. The last few days of Salmonorama, the Steelhead started really showing up in like that 130 foot range, and they were smacking flasher flies down off of outside Dipsy, braided Dipsy. That was really good. I'll tell you what. We'll kind of cover some of the setups that were really good for you, for your kings and all that stuff. In fact, what were some of your go-to, your combos, things that pulled a lot of the heavy load for you?
You know what? To be honest with you, the number one setup for the year was the white 8-inch Pro Troll on the wire Dipsy with the silver back. Old school. It's been good forever. Just never goes out of style with those fish. The fly changed a little bit. In the beginning we were doing really well with the Howie green crinkle, and then we switched over to the Munda flies. Yeah. We had the Fermunda cheese that was pretty good. The Fermunda frog. Yeah. And we kind of bounced around through a few of those, but really that flasher was the one standout flasher. It caught a lot of fish. Late in the season, the big 11-inch version of it on a rigger was doing really well. Just longer leader on those flies, was catching everything, Coho's kings. But that was the number one setup. As far as spoons go, and we didn't have like one standout spoon for the whole year. It changed a little bit. The Flounder Pounder started off good. The Blue Dolphin was doing well. We went on. It was mainly moonshines for us and a few Pro Kings that were doing pretty well. I think it was mainly Magnum spoons, but this year really a lot of black spoons. Yeah. Black spoons were really good.
Yeah, actually, I'm glad you mentioned that. That is something that we noticed. So I think was it last year that it was the year of the Bloody Nose, or was it the year before?
Bloody Nose has been good last year. I mean, Bloody Nose has been a pretty consistent one, but we saw a real push for Bloody Nose last year.
Last year, yeah.
But I've definitely seen a trend the last 3 years with more and more black spoons. Some black flashers even, but black spoons really picking up steam the last 3 years, which has been interesting. Like, not that black spoons have been bad, but they've never been amazing in Lake Michigan, at least in our area. It's been more of a Lake Ontario thing. using black. But man, you couldn't keep black spoons in the store.
No, and when we mean black, like we're talking about like spoons that have a lot of black on them. So
Yeah, not just like a few black spots.
yeah,
like,
not just the black spots, right? It was like your Sniper, which was a new one.
Yeah, the Sniper was really good.
Couldn't
spoon.
keep Sniper off on the shelves.
I should have mentioned that one. Sniper was really good.
Sniper was definitely a breakout. Raspberry Carbon.
Yep.
That thing did damage for me as well. RV. I prefer the RV, but there were some mornings where I would start without the just the regular non-RV Raspberry Carbon 14.
Yep.
It looks boring. It's just the black, all black with just the glow dot. But that thing was doing really good. Bad Toad towards the back end of the year really picked up momentum and was doing really well. And for some reason, we noticed like the non-RV version for some reason did better than
that
the
Bad
RV
Toad.
version.
It's always good the second half of the summer, especially August. It gets really good. This year it started a little earlier, but that's always a good late summer spoon every year.
I'm trying to think if there's any other spoons that were black that we might have missed. Blue Hulk or Green Hulk.
Yep.
Were good.
There were some, I can't even think of them. There was a handful of black stingers that were really good. I can't even think of the names of them right now.
Frog, the frog one,
just the regular frog.
Yeah, it's so it's got the glow strip on the side.
Super Slim too was doing good. Yeah.
So keep that in mind for next season. If you didn't run blacks, spoons that have a lot of black on them, get that in the mix, and we'll see it. We'll see next year if that kind of continues with that. They want the black spoons, but it was really interesting. We noticed that pretty quickly too.
Yeah.
We noticed that really quickly that folks were catching fish with spoons that had a good amount of black on them. So that was pretty cool to make those observations as well. For me, when it came to Flesh or Flies, between Salmon-orama and me running my own stuff in the kayak, that Lucky Charms from Salmon Candy that we had got over here. I remember when we got the shipment in, I'm looking at them like, well, Rob, I was like, let me grab one or two of these. What do you think? And we're looking at them all, and everyone talks about the Megatron, or whatever. And some of the other ones that they're very popular from folks. But I was like, well, it's like, what's the story with this one? And I'm talking about the Lucky Charms, and you're like, yeah, this is actually kind of like an old school design that they kind of brought back or whatever.
Yeah,
so I was like,
around forever.
Yeah, and I was like,
old lure Jensen pattern.
Yeah, and it was on the white board, and I really tend to like the white flasher boards, like in general. So like, all right, I'll grab that. I think I started off with a bullfrog fly on it, and I think at some point I switched over to when Munda created the new ones that did really, really good. We couldn't keep those on the shelves either. The Fermunda cheese and then the Fermunda frog.
Yep.
Yeah, I had the Fermunda frog on that one, and man, I'll tell you what, especially during Salmon-orama, that Lucky Charms was doing some work. Some of the other ones that did really well was the Songins, the white Songins. Mm-hmm. And then once we get into August, I'll tell you what, cannot go wrong with the Dreamweaver double crush, 8-inch with a white fly.
The Spin Doctor.
Yeah. Spin Doctor. Black beads. Mm-hmm. It was just smoking, and even into the fall king run, kings are still hitting flasher flies.
Yep.
I'm still getting the go on that thing. I'm just running it right off the bottom. Like, run it tight to the bottom, and they'll go for it still. So just the whiteboards by and large just work really well, man. You can't really go wrong. I know you said you were using the Pro Troll with the crush and the silver on the back. So those were some of the standouts for me. And again, it was either like a bullfrog fly or one of ours from the Fermunda series of flies that really did a lot of the lifting with kings and getting some of those bigger coho off of those rigs as well. We get into August though, and I knew it was coming. I said to Rob, I was like, dude, we had such an amazing July. I just know we're about to get pooped down here in a second. And sure enough, it happens, right? August comes, and it's the beginning of just crap weather, man, right? It was very challenging to get out whether you're in a small boat or a kayak or whatever. Most of those days it was only the charters going out, and even then they were like, "Yeah, we're gonna have to cancel," or clients just decided they don't want to go out. It was tough.
It was a tough August. I mean, August is usually rougher than July, but this was way rougher.
It was way rough. Yeah, this was like this is an outlier.
I know. We kept waiting for the right winds to bring in the cold water. You could never get enough. It just wanted to stay east and north, and it was tough. But fishing stayed good if you could get out there. I mean, we still had some great days out there. Kings were still around, and it was very good. I mean, we had phenomenal August fishing, really.
Yeah, if you were able to get out, if you had the right boat to get out there and you could get them, yeah. But the problem was for most folks, it was
a rough one, that's for sure.
It was tough, man. I remember going out, and of course, when August comes, I start to hunt for those stagers. Especially you get middle or so of the month. I'm out there specifically looking for any of those fish that are starting to creep in a little bit closer. But we had that really warm water, of course, and you're right. I remember quite a few days where, all right, we got projected west, southwest, or south winds, and it's going to be pretty strong. This should do it. The next day should be good to go, right? I go out the next day. That water didn't budge. But it did happen, though. There was a period. I don't remember when.
It lasted for like a day.
Yes.
If we had cold water for a day and close, catch some kings in front of the harbor. And
so, because I know I told you about that. I went out. So we had like 2 days. There was like 2 or 3 days that it was really ripping out of the south. I go out after the day after that south wind subsides and stuff like that, and then the water dropped, and it was like 54 at the surface, right out in front of the harbor. I'm like, yes, let's go. Unfortunately for me that day, there wasn't a lot of action. I might have caught like a coho or something else, but I didn't find the kings in there. I'm like, all right, I'll go back the next day. The next day, that water went right back up. It didn't even last barely 24 hours. So it was really tough. Fishing in August. And then we get into September. Everyone's fully geared up and ready to go for the Fall Kings. I have to say, it was a very good fall run. It was another challenging one because the
water was just so warm.
Yeah, it was really tough. But
yeah, which is the same as we've had the last couple of years. We just haven't had long windows of cold water. Yeah. Just warm water making it tough. They're a little pickier. It's
way more moody of a fish.
Yeah, you just see the bite windows, and then you get a lot of action during those windows if you're there at the right time, and then the rest of the time it's tough fishing, very tough fishing, and then it's a lot of night bite. Now we had like a moon phase early on that we saw some good daytime bites during. Guys were catching fish in the harbors, jigging middle of the day, getting numbers of them. I think that was that full moon. End of August. I'm trying to remember. I think it wasn't. Even
there was
September.
One in September. I remember that guys loaded up that night or that next day.
Yeah, but like what we saw was the guys that did well and were catching multiple fish per trip. They were fishing a lot at night.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. Think about it logically, right? Like the sun isn't beating down on these fish. They're sitting in 25, 30 feet of water in most cases, right? In some of these harbors, maybe less, and if the water's clear, that sun is beating on them down there. So they're not exactly wanting to do too much and stuff. But what I will say is, those windows are really tight. On a good day, getting 2 fish, maybe 3 was about, par for the course. And again, from my experience this fall, you really had to put that bait in front of them. Like you had to put it in their face. So if you're trolling, if you didn't get that crank down in front of their face, they just weren't budging. If you're too far above them, they weren't generally wanting to chase it around. So you had to put it right in front of their face and make it really easy for them to just swipe at it and go. The better days for me fishing were the crappier weather days. I mean, the best day I had, I was out there and it was just crappy. I mean, it was raining in the morning. It was cool. And that morning, I caught 6. Kept 5, caught 6 total, released a 6. I could have kept on whacking at them. I put a pattern together, and they were just consistently catching all morning. The guys on shore that were fishing around, the egg bite was going off for them, so it was a really good day. But on those other days where it was pretty, like a really nice day out, it was tough. You had to kind of fight through it. But what I will say though is there was good numbers of fish again, good numbers to see. Even just with the live scope, just seeing the pods of them, it was like there's a good number of fish around here. So that was a good thing to see. For me, is to see that they were at least there, in numbers and pods moving around and stuff like that. I also noticed that this is a couple years now that they'll come in and they'll go back out in the open water. They weren't fully committed. Like you'll see them come in one time, you can come out the next day, they wouldn't be there, not in the numbers. There might be some stragglers. And the only logical thing that came to my mind is they had to have gone back out in the open water somewhere and they're waiting to come back in for whatever reason. So they are very mobile still, until they get into the actually spawning, they start to do that process. And you'll know that if you guys haven't seen it on your graph, when you see them in like a big giant biomass, I think that is when they're actually doing that thing where they're jumping through each other and like all that stuff. And when that happens, it's a really tough bite to get them to go because they're only focused on that one thing. So these are like these observations you make in that period. A couple of things that we did this year that were new, the Big Pond Brawl. I think we got to talk about that. We did a series. We talked about in prior live streams and stuff like that, but we never really had a chance to kind of just dive into it in terms of like the after kind of impact of it all. And from your perspective in what you saw in the feedback you got, what were your thoughts after we did it and kind of like the impact it had for the fishing community?
I'll tell you what, I think it proved some points. Like around here, tournaments have been getting smaller. And we thought, hey, I think we can get some more people into these. And I think we proved that anglers really want to fish these tournaments. Yeah. Just needed to push them a little harder, a little more advertised, and make them a little more beginner friendly. Yeah. And it worked out amazing. Like I was stunned how well it all worked. Couldn't have gone any smoother. Yeah. For our first time, it was amazing. Yeah. But yeah, 54 boats, which is the most outside of Salmon-O-Rama, sure. That we've had in this area in a long, long time. So I think, we proved that people still want to fish some tournaments.
Yeah. And because of the success of that, in large part to the fishing community, really, we just set it up and wanted to give folks a chance to do something. And from all of that, we learned a lot. And because of the success, our partners in it were very happy with it. From everything.
Awesome sponsors.
Yeah, and
I mean that was such a huge part of the success of it. The amount of money we gave out because of them.
Yeah, I think when it was all said and done, we gave over $17,000 away in cash.
More
and
than
prizes.
that. It was
more than
like
that.
20,
yeah.
21, I think.
Yeah, it was quite a bit, and so. We really did that as a proof of concept for us to see, hey, can we manage this on our end, from a production standpoint? And we wanted to use it to see, just learn it. It was our first time doing that, right? So there's a lot to learn. We wanted to kind of just jump into it, try not to bite off more than we can chew. It worked out great. We learned a lot. And that's what has led us. We made the announcement on our Facebook a month or two ago about the dates for next year, and we're expanding it into a full series. So it'll be 4 events. And what's great about this is that it's going to be there's 2 paths to participating in this. You can do the one-off version, if you want to do specific dates because of your availability, then you can just pick and choose whatever date you want to do, jump in for that date, do it, fish it, and be done. Or for those that want to dive into it more, you could take the series route, enter into the series, and you're going to compete in all of them. And at the end, it'll be a points thing, and it'll be like a boat of the year, and you'll compete for that separate prize. So there'll be 2 paths in that route. We're excited about that. We've got the dates out. I'll link to it down below with that in case you might have missed that. But we got all the information out there. We're currently in the process of securing partners and sponsors for that. did lock down a title sponsor again for this year. I guess we can say that, right?
Yeah, Fishhawk is on board as the official title sponsor again, coming in big, like huge for us. So
Yeah. So
that's such an important part. It's really good we have that their support. You know.
Oh yeah. Just huge. We reached out to them, kind of like the first opportunity since they title sponsored the first one. They said, guys, we're coming back and we want to expand this. We saw the success of it all, and you guys supported us from the jump. We want to give you the opportunity if you'd like to jump on, and they did not hesitate. And it says a lot. That says a lot. So big thank you to Fishhawk for supporting us and the fish community here. So we're really excited about that. We'll announce as we go along. Other partners are going to jump on board here as we kind of finalize all that stuff. But already out of the gate, I'm excited about that because that just means there's going to be some great prizing and great cash prizes to give out and product prizes to give out and stuff like that. Speaking of which, so we're talking about Fishhawk. The word is that they got something new they're going to unveil soon.
Yeah.
So I think next week. Yeah. By the time we post this, it should be coming out. So we don't know what it is ourselves. We're going to keep our eyes peeled out for what it is, and probably in a future podcast we'll talk about it, kind of our initial impressions of whatever it may be. My suspicion, if I had to guess, and I don't have any knowledge of anything on the inside at all, I would think that they might have introduced some kind of live viewing or live video component to the probe. I think that's maybe what it is, and to me, that'd be cool though. To drop down the probe and just now you can see everything while you got the temp and the speed and all that stuff. That's my best guess, but you never know. We'll have to find out in the coming days. But that's pretty cool to see. Mm-hmm. Another interesting thing that transpired from the fishing world, well, specifically our fishing stuff, is moonshine. Moonshine sold the company sold and was bought out by Acme.
Yep.
So that was pretty big news in the salmon fishing world. Acme makes great products. We carry a bunch of their stuff, their jigs and stuff like that. So it makes sense, I guess, why they would acquire them because it falls in line with their products and stuff like that. So that was another piece of news that's kind of happened in the off season here, which is going to be very interesting. There was already a lot of chatter from folks like, oh no, what's going to happen? Are they going to change anything?
Yeah, I saw a spike in moonshine sales right when that happened. Yeah. Everybody's afraid that
they're not going to make the favorite spoon anymore. Yeah.
And I don't think that's going to be the case, but I mean, we have seen that happen with other companies after they were brought out. A lot of things were discontinued. So I don't think that's going to be what happens with moonshine. I think Acme is going to hold on to a lot more of it than what we've seen with their competitors, but you never know.
We don't know. And then maybe we're able to reach out to Acme and ask them about that. I think folks would be really interested to hear what their plans may be with the
right now. I don't think Acme even knows.
That's fair enough.
I mean, I have talked to them a little bit. I don't think they have quite decided. I don't think they have like a real game plan as far as what they're going to do with the spoons, if they're going to be getting rid of any or making more. Like right now, it's just kind of like keeping it as the status quo.
Yeah.
At least for the next few months.
Right.
To a year. And then I don't think you're going to see any real changes until next year.
Yeah, it makes sense. You don't want to really rock the boat with it until you figure out how you can integrate it into your wider kind of.
Yeah, it sounds like for the time being, Tom, the former owner of Moonshine, is still going to be the one making them.
Okay.
And then, yeah, I think going into 2025 is probably when you'll start seeing bigger changes.
Yeah, interesting. So we'll keep an eye on that, and this might be a reason to buy up on your moonshines, guys. Buy your favorite ones up. So that's been some off-season news. I know we kind of jumped around a little bit here, but it is a podcast, and we're just kind of talking. Let's see. So yeah, year in review. Another A, I think, if we were going to grade it. In terms of just all of the fishing, I'll tell you one fish that's kind of gotten forgotten about to a certain extent, by and large, the lake trout. The fishing's been so good for Coho and Kings, Steelhead. Yeah, we got motors going off over here. That the lake trout have not gotten a lot of. I mean, folks weren't really having to fish lake trout until September came when the charters were going out to the reefs.
Yeah,
right. October. But for the rest of the year, I mean, if you caught a Laker, it was a bycatch. You were really targeting Coho or Kings. And
I don't think we caught more than 10 lake trout on our boat the whole year.
Yeah.
No, I just think we weren't where they were. And we were catching kings so fast, the Lakers didn't have a chance.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, you didn't have to go where they were.
Yeah, we weren't going where they were.
Yeah.
I mean, that boat never made it, like, for the most of the season, never made it past 130 feet of water. You know, so we just weren't where they are at.
Yeah. And for most, outside of the charters that will go there if they have to, right? But for most other anglers that are fishing, yeah, they weren't even focusing on Lakers too much. Unless it was a tournament, then guys would set up. But Lakers are kind of getting forgot about, man.
Yeah.
We have to get them out there and give them a little pounding. Here we are, though. It's November. We still got good fishing opportunities. I was just out the other day. The Browns have rolled into the harbors.
Steelhead, too. We're getting into one of my favorite times of the year. And we have a podcast already recorded about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, right now I'm looking forward to getting out there. As it gets colder and colder, like this harbor fishing keeps getting better and better for the Browns and Steelhead and the river fishing. It's a lot of fun, especially in the kayak.
Oh, yeah. It's very, very easy to do. Water's cold, though. The water right now is already 47 degrees. So be safe out there if you are in a smaller vessel or kayak and stuff like that. Even though you're in the harbor, just be careful. You don't want to fall in and all that stuff.
Yeah, honestly, my best time of the year, this time, like for late fall, early winter, like that last week before it freezes up when it's really cold, that's always the best. So yeah, it's, you got to be careful out there because you're talking 32-degree water. It's dangerous.
Very dangerous, very dangerous. But if you're out there, like I said, I was out there the other day, and that was kind of like my first time out. I've been sick for most of like November and October and stuff like that, so I haven't done it much fishing. It's finally kind of back to being regular. So I went out the other day, and beautiful day out for this time of year. Beautiful day out, and I caught two beautiful browns, man. You don't really get to see them a lot. Like, you'll see them in the cold periods, now all the way through ice out. And then once the water warms up, they go and do their thing. And then we're busy catching coho and kings and stuff like that. You really kind of forget just how beautiful that fish is, man. When you pull them in and all that stuff. And I release all my browns. This is a personal thing for me. I don't keep them. But just having them in the net and just the beautiful coloration on them, man.
Oh, yeah, all the fall fish. The fall, I think the steelhead look the best in the fall, too, even better in the spring steelhead. So you get that, like, those super fresh chrome ones in. Some of them they're just starting to kind of get the tinge of color to them, and they're just really cool fish. And I usually catch a lot of my biggest harbor steelhead, like as far as shore fishing, kayak fishing goes, in November and December.
Yeah, and we're here. And I've already seen guys in the southern basin pop in perch, too.
Yep, that's just starting the past week or so.
Yep, we're in full swing. So, guys, there's a lot of fishing opportunity out there. I know some of you guys are out hunting and stuff like that, but don't forget to take advantage of the fish that are out there. Great opportunities from shore. You don't have to bring the boat out if you don't want to. Great opportunity for kayak guys, small boats, smaller vessels and stuff like that to get out there. Putts around the harbors, the river mouths and stuff like that. And you can go to town on them. And we've got all the gear you need for that. The thin fish are in. We've got all the other kind of cranks that you might want to use, your egg sacks and spawn sacks and floats and all that stuff. So we're good to go with all of that stuff. But take advantage of it, and we'll have upcoming podcast episodes with some very knowledgeable anglers that focus on this kind of fishing. They're going to share. In fact, the one that we have with Captain Kyle Devers, unfortunately, there's no video for it. It's going to be an audio-only podcast. There was a recording error. But it's awesome information that'll still be very useful. So we'll have that out soon. We also are working on a video going through we teamed up with Wisconsin DNR for a video. I'm really excited about sharing that with you guys, an inside look at the process from their perspective on getting these fish into the water. So that's really, really cool, getting the egg process and all that stuff. So we got that coming. And just a whole lot for this season. So welcome back. Hopefully you guys are having a good early set to the winter period here. One thing we're gonna keep our eye on, which is what the forecasts have been, or the meteorologists have been talking about, is that we're predicted to have an El Nino winter, which is supposed to be a more severe winter period. So we'll be definitely keeping an eye on that and talking about it as the season goes on for the podcast, and what, if anything, that may or may not do to the fish. Because if you have severe changes in water temps and conditions, it can impact a lot of different things. But so far, we're off to it's been a pretty nice beginning to our winter period. A lot of nice sunny days, very mild.
Too nice. I don't like it to be this nice this time of year.
Rob says that the crappier the weather, the better the fishing is
for this time of year. But brown trout, windy and snowy, you're gonna pound them. Sunny and 70, no fun.
Well, it's not 70, but it's sunny and
60s, whatever.
Yeah,
you want it to be crappy, rainy.
Yeah.
That's my favorite for brown trout in the fall. That crappy weather gets them going.
It really makes me cringe because I think about how uncomfortable it's going to be. You fishing in that.
When you're catching fish, you're always comfortable.
Yeah, so, true.
I wouldn't worry about it too much.
No. So, great start to the podcast season, guys. Welcome back. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Just our kind of brief recap of it all. Rob, you have any other final thoughts you wanted to share?
Oh, no, just getting excited to get out fishing. It's been a while since I've gone fishing. So now that we're talking about it again, I want to get out there and catch some steelhead. So I think I'm going to go do that.
Yeah. One thing I did forget to mention was we did do a King Week event.
Oh, yeah, King Week.
Yeah. It was really
shore, boat, and kayak this time. A lot of fish caught.
Yeah,
good
a lot
week.
of fish caught. We didn't really know. That came about from, I would always do a kayak event the last couple of years for the kayak guys, and we decided to roll it out and expand it and just do it. Since we had the foundation set from the Big Pond Brawl to run all this kind of stuff, it's like, let's just open it up and do it for boat, shore, kayak, and it went great, man. We didn't know what to expect from the boat guys, but we had 20 or so boats, close to 20. I think it was 18.
I don't even remember.
It was something like that. We had a good amount of boats. It was like 22 kayak guys. We definitely need to reach our shore guys a bit more because we only had like 3 involved in that one. So we'll have to work on getting the word out to the shore guys to participate. But that went really well. A lot of fish were caught. And that was really cool to see. Again, we record the weights of these fish and stuff like that. So it was really cool to see like the average weight was in that 14 to 16 pound range. Mm-hmm. But, we'll do that again next year. So, yeah, we have a lot of events and stuff going in next year between the Big Pond Brawl, King Week, and all that stuff. So it's going to be a really good year for events. And we've got the fish there for us. So it should be a good one. So,
yep.
Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes of the podcast. We'll link to some. We'll link in the video here to some products that you might want to grab for your your winter fishing now. If you're going to get out there for some browns and some steelhead and all that stuff, so you can grab those at your arsenal. Stop by the shop if you want to check it all out. If you're new to this kind of fishing, feel free to come by and just ask questions. We're here to help. Happy to answer those questions, point you in the right direction, outfit you with whatever you need to get started. It doesn't take a whole lot to get started right now.
No, not really. Especially if you want to get into this fall, shore, kayak, whatever fishing.
You can get a all-purpose spinning rod setup that can take care of your casting. Your
get a bobber, tube jig, some spawn sacks, a couple crankbaits. You're good to go. You can catch some fish.
Yeah, so stop by. And for anything else, you can visit our website at lakemichiganangler.com. Thank you guys for watching.